Hey guys, welcome back to. First of all, Mama just tell everybody, because I don't want nobody come for me in the comment section. I had a natural hair emergency, and I had a video to record. So I'm just fling one wig upon my head and do two curly thing with a flat iron, and this is it. I am not a wig expert. Okay, we will go back to our regular scheduled programming as soon as I get some gel. Okay, now that we've handled that, today we're gonna talk about something that, as you can see, my reaction and how I'm behaving, you can tell it's one of my favorite topics. Yes, I know. Out of the 3 videos I've recorded, I've said that probably 3 times. But for real, today we're gonna talk about property acquisition. Today we're gonna talk about real estate. But we're not gonna talk about it in that way that people talk, that experts talk about real estate. We're gonna talk about it in the simple layman terms. I'm gonna break it all down. Real estate is a very expansive topic, but what I noticed is from my job at Palo Poly, which we will talk about in a second, I noticed that a lot of people don't understand the process of acquiring real estate. So before we jump into the financials or the financial aspect of acquiring real estate, I want to make sure you understand what the process entails. So for this video, we're gonna delve into the process itself. I'm gonna tell you some tricks to look out for, some tips that you can use to make the process a little easier. And next week, we will jump into the financial aspect of it, as in mortgages, meaning dollars and cents, loan terms, clearing your loan in your mortgage in a shorter time, etc. But we have lots to talk about next week. First thing we're going to talk about is just stop for a minute, and if you have not watched my budgeting video, you should go and watch my budgeting video. Okay, and the reason I'm saying that is you should make sure that your mortgage or the proposed mortgage, monthly mortgage, that it can fit within your budget comfortably. The bank will approve you for certain amounts, and the bank will they'll assess your finances, and they will say, yeah man, we'll grant you the mortgage. But at the end of the day, you have to look at whether you can comfortably afford it, not as it relates to expenses alone, but as it relates to growth. Do you want to keep growing your portfolio? Do you want to be investing in the stock market? Do you want to invest in other things? Please do not take on a mortgage that sucks up the majority of your income. Even if you're in a situation where your current expenses plus the proposed mortgage, it's comfortable for you in that, you could survive. Don't put yourself in a situation where you can only survive. If you want to grow, if you want to seriously grow, you have to leave some space in your income for investments and growth. So even though you can afford the mortgage, by virtue of what the bank is saying, it does not necessarily mean that you should take it out. Consider your future goals, consider what you'd like to do in terms of growth. Another thing you need to consider is not just the mortgage. I have mortgage on the slideshow above, but you should not only consider the mortgage. If you are buying an apartment unit, you have to think of the monthly maintenance cost that you have to pay to the strata. You also have to think about property tax. You have to think about situations that may arise, such as the toilet overflowing, an example I love to use apparently. But you have to consider these expenses before you assume the responsibility of a mortgage. Make sure it fits comfortably within your budget, bearing in mind your investment/savings category and your wants category. All right, so now that we have that out of the way, I hope my hair is standing up because this was so hard. Like, trust me, weak people. But anyway, so now we're gonna I'm gonna walk you through it. I'm gonna walk you through the process and tell you what you need to know, or some of the things you need to know. But let me just say, first of all, that if you don't want to have to deal with any of this, you don't want to deal with the entire process, you are busy, you just can't bother standing in lines, or you can't bother shopping around, or you just don't feel comfortable doing it, probably first property, you're not comfortable doing it on your own, you can use the services of a company called Palo Poly Consulting. My name is Palomino, and the name of the business is Palo Poly, so you can probably pick up it's my business. But what it does is that it does the entire process for you, from financial assessment to installing security cameras and installing grill grills in your property. So it's like an all-in-one service, literally, and you only have to deal with one person. Most of the time that one person is me. So now that we have that out of the way, we are going to start from the very beginning. Let's talk about where to actually look. Now, I know people say the first thing you need to do is you need to go into the bank to get pre-qualified, but I don't think that's the first thing you need to do. I think the first thing you need to do is you need to actually sit down and you need to figure out what you're going for. Why do you want to buy this property? Do you want it for investment purposes? Do you want it for your personal purposes? Why do you want the property? Are you willing to buy somewhere in Spanish Town, Portmore, Old Harbour, or are you looking strictly in Kingston? What do you want? What do you want? You need to figure that out first. Now, after you figure that out, you then need to go get pre-qualified by the bank. That's if you're going to use a mortgage. Now, when you go to the bank, first of all, there's so many different banks you can go to. The most popular ones are JMMB, JN, VMBS, and NCB and Scotia. So those are the popular ones. But what you need to do is you need to figure out what their rates are, what their interest rates are, and guys, what their the processing fees are. What are the processing fees? They usually rate it or they usually provide a percentage to capture the processing fee. They differ depending on where you go. So you need to figure that out, because that can be as high as 3% of the value of your mortgage. So you need to find out what their rates are before you decide which bank to use. Now, right now, interest rates are about 6.99%. I think somebody's at 6.7 or 6.5%. I can't quite recall right now. But interest rates right now are at 6.99%. They're about. Processing fees are about 2%, 2 to 3%, plus GCT. So these are some fees you need to be aware of. But what the bank will first need to know, so let's say you figure out the bank that you want to use. They will need a bunch of documents from you, and these documents are needed to determine if you can afford a mortgage. So they look at what your income is, what your expenses are, what your disposable income is basically, and then they tell you how much they would be willing to lend to you. Now, this pre-qual letter is not a commitment on the part of the bank. It is merely the bank saying, hey, should you come in for a mortgage? Let's talk about us giving you a $15 million mortgage or a $20 million mortgage. It is not a commitment. But you need this letter because, one, vendors will probably not take you seriously if you don't have it. Most realtors require that you have a pre-qual letter. Most vendors require that you have a pre-qual letter. So you get this letter, you submit all your documents to the bank. They'll give you the laundry list of things that you need to have. After they do that, they then give you a pre-qual letter based on what they're willing to give to you. That pre-qual letter it usually breaks down what the fees are. So it will tell you, the processing fee, the mortgage. It will tell you the amount they're willing to lend, the interest rate, etc. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Trust me guys, today I'll get a pre-qual letter for a client that has all that. Tomorrow I'll get a pre-qual letter from the same bank without all that. But I would have done my due diligence and I would have probably gotten it by email or something to that effect with the bank, the mortgage officer. So that's the first step. Now that you have your pre-qual letter, you can then go out and you start shopping. Remember that first thing we did, which was to identify what you actually want. You can now go out with your pre-qual letter based on what they're willing to lend you, and you can then make some real decisions based on where you want to live or where you want to invest in. Now here's the kicker. What most people don't understand in Jamaica, or most young people don't understand in Jamaica, is that your salary, if it's under 200,000, you won't qualify for that much. So if you're looking for a $20 million apartment, and you only have 5 to 10% of the $20 million, you won't qualify for that $20 million. There's a good chance you won't qualify. You'll probably qualify for some, depending on your expenses and your credit score, but you'll probably qualify for somewhere between 12 to 17 million dollars. And then when you go out with your pre-qual letter and you see what 12 to 17 million dollars can get you, then it's usually a heart attack on spot, because that's how the market is. That's how the market is now. That's how it's been for the past couple of years. So it's just for you to understand what your money can buy. And again, it depends on the area that you're venturing into. If you want to do Kingston, meaning Kingston 6, Kingston 8, Kingston 5, 10, what I said before about the $200,000 per month, that applies. But if you want to get more bang for your buck and you want to get somewhere cheaper but it still looks good, Portmore is an excellent bet. Portmore is an excellent would be an excellent acquisition. Look into that. Old Harbour is the new Portmore basically, so you can look into that too. But you have to just assess whether it makes sense for you. Is the commute sensible for you based on what you do? For me, for example, I work from home most of the time, so the location wouldn't be that big a deal for me. I mean, I could live in St. Elizabeth or the mountains, or I could live anywhere and I'd be fine because I don't need to commute anywhere. So you need to assess what you need for the property that you need based on your goals. Now, after you get your pre-qual letter and you find a property, you can use a realtor, by the way. If you're purchasing real estate, use a realtor. You don't have to pay the realtor anything at all. The fees are paid by the vendor. So why not use a free service? Use a realtor. They often know new developments if that's what you want. They know of not so new properties. You just need to talk to a realtor. But if you don't want to talk to a realtor, or you still talk to a realtor but you want more options, drive around. Jump in a car and drive around. That's what I do at Palo Poly. Literally, jump in my car, drive around. If I see somewhere that I like for a client and there's a sign up for a realtor in front of it, I call the realtor. Or if there's no sign and I see somewhere I like, I find out who owns it. I need it for my client. But that's what you can do that too. Now, the next thing that you can look into doing, this is actually very important. When you identify the type of property, or you identify the property itself that you would like to acquire, you need to make sure that you have all the money, the capital, to close this sale. There are a whole bunch of fees you have to pay, but to be really comfortable, like really comfortable when you're doing a sale or you're doing a purchase, I should say, an acquisition, you should budget for anywhere between 15 to 20% of the value of the property. Because your attorney's fees, that's 3%, the bank's processing fees, that can be, let's say about 2%, so that's 5% already. The deposit itself, that's 5 to 10% depending on the type of property you're looking to get into. But let's say it's 10%, that's 15% that you're 15 lies. No. So you have 3% for the attorney, 2% for, yeah, I was right. So you're at 15% already, and you don't factor in valuation, the service ID report, you don't factor in all the small fees, I like to say, the small fees that you have to pay, for example, to transfer the title and all of that. So you need to make sure you have between, I'd say 20 to 25% to be really comfortable in a sale. So now you identify the property, you have a pre-qual letter, you've identified the property. Now it's time and you have your money, it's time to make an offer on this property. Before you do so though, before you actually sign an offer, I would suggest use an attorney. Use the attorney, or ask the attorney to inquire as to if it's a new development, inquire as to where the developer is with respect to the legal process. Find out if there are any restrictive covenants on the title, and if the parent title, and if there are restrictive covenants on the parent title, find out if they've been modified, or if the covenant does not affect you, then you're fine. But you need to get an attorney to assess this. Second, you need to make sure that the developer has all his or her approvals from all the relevant authorities. Now, do not use your mother, your granny, and the village lawyer to say you're not gonna ask developer if him have approvals. He may very well have the approvals, but the approvals may say the parish council and the relevant authorities may have given approvals on the condition that he gets the restrictive covenant on the title modified by the court. If he does not do this, then the approvals are not valid. So you need to make sure this is done. And as I said, nobody march on the way so you go ask developer nothing. You need a real lawyer to actually do this for you, to make the assessment and determination on your behalf. What you'll notice is that some developers will get the approvals from KSAC or whichever parish they're building in. They have the approvals from NEPA, but they don't have the restrictive covenant modified. There's still a covenant on the title that restricts this apartment or this apartment complex. That's a problem. That can be a problem because the court can literally order that this entire development be demolished, which happened, believe it or not, which happened a couple months back. So you need to make sure that you're not going to be entangled in all that mess. Ask your attorney to look to ask these questions before you make an offer on this property. The next thing is do not pay any money to any developer, him or herself, at all. You need to channel all monies through your attorney. So for example, you see a place, you like a place, you see the developer tells you, you know what, the last unit, this is not a big man, where they pan. And you say, okay, common sense is if you want to reserve somewhere, you put a deposit on it or you put a down payment on it, right? Common sense. But actually no, that's not how it works with acquiring property. Because you're not supposed to be paying any money to the developer or the vendor or whoever. You're not supposed to be doing that. All of your monies need to be transferred or they need to go through your attorney. Your attorney pays the money over to the vendor's attorney. So it's attorney to attorney, not you to developer, because then the developer can simply say you didn't pay any money at all, and then what are you going to be left with? You know, so, and that has happened several times. So you need to, especially if the deposit is not any great deposit. So for example, if the deposit is probably 500,000, which you can pay, you can deal in cash for that kind of thing, and it won't really affect it that much. Or the developer can say that he got money from you, but we never talked about no apartment. Him asked me for some advice, and my advice was 500,000. When you channel money through your attorney, your interests are protected. Your attorney is held to certain standards legally that protect your monetary interests. So for example, if the sale falls through, your attorney would have, if something happens to the sale, the vendor's attorney should be able to refund the deposit that you paid to your attorney. So it's attorney to attorney. If you had paid that money to the developer or to the vendor directly, what's to stop them from using the money? And if the sale falls through, if they're not wealthy, then they may not be able to refund your deposit. The attorneys are not supposed to disburse the funds to their respective clients. Sometimes they may use the funds to pay stamp duty, etc., whatever it is, transfer tax. But all these monies that they would have spent from the deposit, if the sale falls through, it's refundable. So the government would or can refund or may refund the amount spent. So you have some protection there when you channel the money from your attorney to the vendor's attorney. If you don't do that and you pay money directly to the vendor, if this situation arises and the vendor go to road, go braff out your money, buy out the bar, case of champagne, all kind of things, 50 grand week fee woman, then you would be in problems. So I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. Or I keep saying developer, guys, but I mean the vendor. There's so many loopholes that they can use, so it's best to go through your attorney. I wonder if my hair is still standing up. This is hard. But anyway, guys, so now that we've established that you don't pay money unless it's through your attorney with respect to the sale, we can then look to signing the offer to purchase. Now, this form requires your personal details, your attorney's details, and basically your offer, what you're willing to pay for this unit or this property. When that offer goes through, if it's accepted by the vendor, when you submit the offer and they accept, the vendor's attorney sends over an agreement for sale, a draft agreement for sale. Make sure your attorney, you need to hire an attorney who will fight for you. Most of these agreement for sales are pretty standard, but there are some of them that they will try to pull some breeder trick over your eye. So for example, if the unit is the price is quoted in US dollars, some agreements for sale, they do not specify that you're agreeing to a certain exchange rate. Now, for example, if you agreed to, or you signed this agreement for sale in January when the exchange rate was, for example, about 135 or whatever it was, and your money is supposed to pay when COVID started and US gone to 151, you see the problem you're in, right? So you need to make sure you hire a good attorney, a competent attorney, to go through the contract and to fight for you, to do some proper negotiation. Because after you sign this agreement, you're locked in. Okay, so you need to make sure it's a good agreement and it suits you. Now, after you do the agreement for sale, and it's signed, then time starts running legally. If you're going to use a mortgage, you have to make sure you get something known as a letter of undertaking from the bank, which pretty much is just a letter from the bank saying that they're willing to pay $15 million or $20 million on your behalf, and they're going to pay it in X amount of days to the vendor. But you have to get that done before a certain amount of time has passed. So again, you need to make sure you get a competent attorney, so that the attorney can provide all the documents, all the legal documents that the bank needs. The bank will need a bunch of documents for this mortgage process, and most of them are legal documents. So you need to make sure you have that, you have all your reports done, and if you're not using Poly, you're gonna have to go through and go and find different professionals and have them get all the reports done and whatever. But after you do that, and the bank gives you the LU, the letter of undertaking, then the vendor's attorney springs into action. He or she ensures that your name is recorded on the title and all the stamp duty is paid, transfer tax is paid, all the relevant fees are paid, so that the bank can then go ahead with registering their mortgage on the title and thereafter dispersing the funds to the vendor. So that's pretty much it. Right, but in terms of things that you need to look out for, there are two things I'd say you need to be aware of before you sign any agreement for sale. One, you need to assess the reason why you need a property again. If it's for investment and you're buying into an apartment complex, you need to make sure that you read the bylaws. And the bylaws pretty much are rules that govern an apartment complex. Some apartment complexes do not allow certain activities. So for example, if you're planning to buy if you're buying an apartment for Airbnb and the bylaws say no Airbnb, then you can't do Airbnb activities there. You need to make sure you assess that before. Have your attorney look through the bylaws to make sure you're acquiring property for the reason you can do what you wanted to do with the property. You just need to make sure you read the fine print, or you have your attorney read the fine print. So yeah, guys, part 2 will be about the financial aspect of acquiring property. So interest rates, the loan term, different loan terms, the tricks to get your mortgage cleared faster. It's just a whole bunch of things, but it's the financial aspect of it. I just wanted us to get through the process for today, and then next week, when we understand what the process is, we can move ahead with the financial aspect of it. I will see you guys next week for our next video.